Okay, in section 4, we're going to talk about proving and ruling a journal, which basically means that we need to make sure that our debits equal our credits. And so on the last line of the journal, we're going to do totals, and then we will break it down debits and credits and make sure that they are the same number. We will also talk about transferring it from one page to another, meaning we're about to finish up this page, but we're not done with the month. So we're going to do what they call a brought forward and carried forward and move it on to the next blank page. So that's what we're going to be doing during this section. We're also going to prove cash, which means that we're going to prove that whatever we actually have in the checkbook matches with what we've been recording here. Okay. Also, if you look in your book on page 77, it talks about some tricks for figuring out, like, if you have a mistake. So let's say that you go through and you're $1 off. Why is it that you're $1 off? What kind of tricks or things can you figure it out? And so on page 77, it talks about 9 different reasons that you might be able to find errors. So it talks about correcting errors, as in if you have an error, you put a line through it and put the correct number up at the top. Now, for us, that's not really going to happen because I'm encouraging you to use a pencil, right, Garrett? Otherwise, so you can just erase it. Otherwise, it gets a little bit sloppy. But you'll notice a lot of times whenever I'm grading your work that is what I do. I put a line through it and then I write the correct number right up above it. That's basically to show evidence that I'm not trying to manipulate things. Nowadays, though, we will be doing it on the computer. And I've always said that I like to do, I'm a computer teacher. I strongly encourage using the technology to make it easier, but anybody can use QuickBooks, but you need to understand why you're actually doing the things that you're doing. And so that's why we do it this old school paper way. Okay, so that way you're understanding the whole debits and the credits and making things balance, and you're seeing it all together as compared to just one thing at a time. So that way whenever we get to that end of the month or end of the fiscal period and you need to print reports or whatever your boss is asking you to do, you understand what it actually means on the computer. If you have a whole entire entry that is incorrect, then you can do the same thing. Like I would just put a line the whole way through it, and then I would put the correct one right below it. We try not to abbreviate. A lot of times I'm fine with abbreviations, like for example the accounts payable. For us to be writing that whole entire thing in there, that takes a lot of space. Neatness is pretty important. Okay, I don't want to actually think that maybe you wrote an R versus a P, so make sure that you're doing that. It talks about how, like, I accept this little line through here, but if I left it blank, that would be bad. So you do want to put something there, whether you're putting the 2 zeros in there or whether you're putting the line, that's okay. You'll see at the end of this section, we're going to do what we call a double rule. And that's basically going to be that we put a line and then we double rule. And that's done after we've proven that our debits equal credits. So let's continue on with our 3-4 work together. So in your textbooks, it's on page 78. We have 4 transactions. It says that you're going to journalize the transactions for the 23rd and 27th, and then we're going to prove and roll page 1, and then we'll continue on to page 2. So on April 23rd, we have a transaction that says sold services on account. So we're going to have AR, L row, and this is going to be S2. So if you remember, we did a transaction like this before up here. So you're going to see it basically identical, only this time it's going to be for $375. Sold services, so sales, $375. Then on the 27th, we have paid cash to owner for personal use. He just got paid. So we have Norm Durner, drawing, he's getting a check number 7 in the amount of $500. And then you'll see here we only have one line, and so it's going to say that now we need to approve and roll, and we are going to go ahead and put the last date we had here, so that's the 27th. We're going to put carried forward. We're going to leave our document number blank, but we will put a check mark here in post reference. And again, remember, I'm going to explain that next chapter. We're going to do a single roll across these numbers, and then I'm going to add all of these columns and all the different numbers. So general debit, $4,958. General credit, $2,255. Sales credit is $3,385. Cash debit is $4,255. And cash credit is $3,573. Now, I could go ahead and double rule this, but one of the steps that it wants me to do is to actually prove that my debits equal my credits. So on your next page, okay, so this is like a continuation of the work together, we are going to come over here where it says prove page 1 of the journal, and it says general, sales, cash, and then total. So looking at these numbers here, so I have general debit, so that's at $49.58. And then general credit, sales, $33.85, and then cash, and then the cash credit. And then I will add these two numbers, these three numbers, and they should match because my debits equal my credits. And that number is $9,213, $9,213. They match. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to double rule. So I draw one line and then I draw a second line. And that little line says, hey, I'm done with this page. My debits equal my credits. That's looking good. And then I need to begin the next page. So this was page 1. Now I'm going to go to page 2. Okay, and I'm going to put this date here, this 27th. I need to put the full date though, because this is the first transaction of the page. And then these were carried forward, so these ones are brought forward. Same as up here, I'm going to do this check mark, and then I'm literally just taking exactly the same numbers. Okay. Then I can continue on. So I have, according to the instructions in the textbook, I've proved and ruled page 1. I carried the column totals over to page 2. Now I'm going to use page 2 to journalize the rest of the transactions for April. Okay. I had a little mix up, so if this blends a little bit weird, you can blame that all on me. But we just now did our brought forward, which we just transferred these numbers down. Okay, so I'm looking at the 29th, and we have received cash on account. So we're going to have ARL row. This is going to be receipt number 3, and it's for the amount of $300. Okay, so we have general credit and then cash debit. Then the last transaction is for the 30th. This is a received cash from sales. So remember that has the 2 special amount columns. So all I have to do is the check mark. This is going to be T30. This 30 corresponds with the date. I put the check mark in here, which remember we're going to explain in chapter 4. And this is for the amount of $544. Okay. So we're done doing transactions, so our next step would be for us to total this particular journal. So we're going to do the 30th. We're going to write the title totals, because at the end of the month you always do the totals. Notice now I'm writing totals. I'm not doing brought forward or carried forward because we're all done with the particular month. So we're doing our final totals. We are going to do a solid line, and then we're going to total up these columns just like we did on the previous page. And we are looking at $49.58, $2,555, $3,929, $5,099, and $3,573. It then gives me instructions to make sure that my debits equal my credits. So again, I'm going to go through this step here. So I have $49.58 for general debit, general credit, sales credit, cash debit, and cash credit. I total these up to make sure that my debits equal my credits, and I am looking at $10,057, so they match. Debits equal my credits, which means that now I can come up here and I can double rule. So 1 line, 2 lines. Okay. So I'm done journalizing, but now I need to actually go through the process of proving my cash. And according to your textbook, it says to prove cash, the beginning of the cash balance on April 1st is 0. So cash on hand at the beginning of the month was 0. The balance on the next unused check stub. So checkbook balance on next unused check stub is going to be $1,526. So basically I'm going to do some math, and I'm going to hope that this number matches this number. These two numbers should be the same. So cash received during the month. So according to this journal page, remember every single time we have a transaction it says cash received, we do cash debit. So I'm going to go up here to my cash debit and look at the total. So I have $5,099 equals, so cash plus equals, so this is pretty easy math here, less, so I'm going to subtract my total cash paid during the month. So every time we have a transaction that says cash paid, we use cash credit. So that's 3573. If I subtract this and get this number here, then I'm going to end up with $1,526. And notice then that they match. Woo! Yay! That's what we want. It's very satisfying. And so everything is proven. My debits equal my credits. My cash is balancing out. I've double ruled to make sure that I'm all done with that particular thing. And we've just now journalized all different kinds of transactions. Questions, concerns, or thoughts? Make sure you just email me. And then I'll see you next week. Have a good week.